Into the ballgame as Paul McKeskey has become kind of a cult hero in Milwaukee, Tommy.
Fred Roberts hits McKeskey at the other end.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of We Got Next. I'm Ricky Hampton with my great friend, Paul McKeskey, coming to you on his Monday evening. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody got lucky with their teams advancing. We're going to get into the next round of the NBA playoffs in a little bit more. But it's been a really interesting playoff series this year in the NBA so far. Definitely want to get your thoughts on that in general before we get into specifics.
Well, my board's filling up back here. Look at that. It's almost to the end. Yeah, it's been interesting.
I remember when that bad boy was blank, Mo. But let's look back at what we just saw over the weekend. That we're going to have a new champ for the seventh straight year. The Boston Celtics were dispatched by the gritty New York Knicks in 6 games. I was really surprised at that. And I know the Celtics, they dealt with the injury, the devastating injury to Jason Tatum. But they gave a couple of those to the Knicks.
Yeah, we talk about this. You can't give games away in a series. So they had 20-point leads in both their home games, games 1 and 2. So if they win one of those or 2 of those, this is a different series. But they didn't. They let them go away, and now they're pushing themselves. And, injuries catch up with you. Tatum goes down, pops his Achilles. Porzingis is never right. He's sick. And now we learned that Jaylen Brown has had torn cartilage in his knee. That's what he was playing with. So, if you let games go early in the series, everybody says, well, the series isn't over, and it doesn't start till you win on the away team, and it's only game 1, and it's only game 2, and it's only game 3, and it's only game 4, and now you're out of the playoffs.
Mo, when you played and you were in those grinded out series, did you buy into all of that, or it was just the next game for you?
Well, you have to. I mean, you can't. The worst thing you could do as a player is let mistakes in the past during the game affect the way you're going to play, because you're just going to make more mistakes. So that's what you do as a player. And as a team, you can't let the mistakes you made in one game affect the way you play in the next game. However, you got to learn from those mistakes. And at the same time, the more experience you have, the more you understand what's going on during that game. So you've been there. We've lost a 2-0 lead. We've come back from 3 down. So you've already been there, but you can see it happening. You can feel it happening in the game, and then you can click on by halftime and say, listen, we can't blow this game. It's going to hurt us in the long run. So we got to click in. We got to get focused. We got, players, teams that get nonchalant with it, that's who blows the leads. That's who, you wonder why. And I was one of them. A coach in the fourth quarter up 20 points is going crazy because he knows he's seen it happen before. I've seen it happen before. I've been there. 20-point lead nowadays is nothing. So all these silly mistakes and lazy, bad turnovers and just silly shots. And, all of a sudden that 20-point lead is now 10 and we got a problem. And, but the teams that have been there, the coaches that have been there, know this, and they know it during that game, not after the game. They know during the game, and they make adjustments. And you can't shortcut that. Denver fired their coach a month before the season was ended. They fired him, the guy that won a championship for you. That comes into play.
I want to get into more of that when we jump over to that series and what we saw yesterday. But I want to stick with this next Celtics series. And this is just, I just want your expert opinion here. because we know what happened after Tatum went down. But and this is just throwing stuff out there. Was Boston still good enough to win that series without him, with a healthy Porzingis and Brown healthy?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
They were still that good. Yeah.
I think so. They could absorb, because Brown steps into the Tatum role, and then but if Porzingis has to play like Porzingis averaged in that series, he averaged 8 points and 5 rebounds. That's what he averaged in that series.
Yeah.
And we talked before the playoffs when we put it on this board, right? And I had Boston probably over the Cavs because of their depth and because of Porzingis. Porzingis starting, Horford coming off the bench. But Porzingis was sick the whole time. He couldn't play. And then, when you add that injury to Tatum, but if a healthy Porzingis, in my opinion, and Jaylen Brown playing like Jaylen Brown, they had enough to beat the Knicks, I believe. Yeah. But, ifs, ands, and buts, right?
Right. Hey, and speaking of Cleveland, the number 1 seed, I mean, they just got run over by the Pacers, and they had injuries too, and that's just no excuse. It is what it is. But of those 2 teams, which one would you think was more disappointing, the Celtics or the Pacers? I mean, the Cavaliers.
Describe disappointing, because Boston losing was disappointing. Cleveland, the Cavs, I've talked about this for a long time. They have one of the best starting 5s, but they're not deep. They don't have depth. And you have to have depth in 7-game series. Listen, Ricky, from the beginning of the first round of the playoffs to the end of the championship run, if you make that run, you could play 28 extra games, 2 more months. That's how long it is. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon to get to the championship. And if you don't have the depth to absorb injuries or absorb tiredness during a game and during a series, it's going to affect you. So, I would have liked to see, because in a key game, Mobley, Hunter, and Garland were all out. And then they came back and they weren't 100%. And DeAndre Hunter was never as effective as they thought he was going to be. So, that's a toss-up between those 2 letdowns. I mean, but Cavs, depth and injuries, and Boston, injury and sickness. So.
And Paul, you just made a great point, like you do every week on this show. And welcome everybody out there. Thanks for checking in to our great friend Steve. You can play 28 games, and Mo, those are grueling physical games because you can see clearly on the screen. Everything is up in the playoffs.
Yeah, the refs are letting them play more physical, which everybody wants to see. And, that adds up, especially if you're not used to doing that during the season. What was a foul during the season is not anymore. And you guys get up and play. Stop crying. Stop whining. Stop looking at the refs. They're not going to have you got to play through it. And it's going to wear on you. It's going to wear on you mentally and physically. And it has shown in teams and in games and with teams without experience. And, it's a long, it's like you play 82 games and then you have another college season on top of that. How about that? Think about that. You just played 8 months. You just played 8 months, 82 games, and now we want you to play another 2 months and 28 games. There you go.
and those games are compressed. A college season is from October to March. So and far more physical. Those are great points, Mo. Steve, injuries to the last season have taught team. Paul McCluskey's rule, tell me who's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, best ability is availability, and it's so evident. And and I think we've talked about this before on the show, Ricky. There's little things that experienced coaches can do to get their players rest. So instead of let's throw this out. Instead of the Joker playing 42 minutes, you give him a minute and a half at the end of the first quarter, 2 minutes at the start of the second quarter. That's 3 minutes, and now he's playing 39 minutes. And then he gets actually 5 or 6 minutes of real rest, real time. You got to put that in. The problem is, we found that out with the Lakers, right? They didn't trust anybody else to put in. So you have to have players that can maintain. If you take Joker out and you have a 4-point or 5-point lead, you can have it go down to 1 or 2 or tie, but you can't have it where you go down 8 in those 4 minutes. And that's the difference between depth in the NBA and in the playoffs. And you got to use all your bench, all your timeouts, all your rest time. And you got to really, really push the emphasis on the players that in between games, they need to get rest. Don't screw around. You got to get rest. You got to get sleep. You got to be hydrated. You got to get nutrients in your body. You got to get massages to keep your body right. You got to do ice tubs. You got to do warm tubs. You got to do all that stuff. You got to stay off your feet. You can't be on your feet all the time. First series, okay, we're fine. Second series, man, I'm a little tired. Third series, I'm worn out if you don't do all that stuff.
Hey, our great friend Chris is checking in. I'm going for the T-Wolves in the West, and I live in OKC. Be careful out there, Chris, and stick around because we're going to get into that series in depth later in the show. So we want to hear your questions and comments. And Paul, this is the second straight year Cleveland has been tossed. Last year was in the first round, and injuries have been a problem with them 2 straight years going to the playoffs. As an organization, I mean, you never know about an injury. I understand that. But is this something they will look at? Maybe we should do this differently or just cross all our fingers next time? Well,
I think the one thing they have to look at is Garland and Mitchell are both small guards. And, it's a trouble in the playoffs how physical it gets if you have small guards. And they need another ball handler and probably a wing defender, a 3-and-D guy, and we all thought that this was Mobley's year to step forward, and he didn't in the playoffs. He just didn't. He struggled in the early games and was non-existent in the later games. And so, you expect your players to play up to what, Allen's going to be what Allen's going to be. Strus is going to be Strus. He's going to shoot, make threes. Mitchell's going to be a scorer. Garland's going to handle the ball. But where are you, Mobley? Where are you? You're supposed to be the next Kevin Garnett or somebody. Where are you now? You were making strides, made an All-Star team, and now you disappear in the playoffs. So maybe it's youth, maybe it's it's lack of experience, but they have to make a couple adjustments, but they don't have to throw the whole game plan away. And we'll go out and look at some of the matchups in the West. Well, I'm sure you were not surprised about what happened out at Golden State with those guys and the Timberwolves. Well, injury again, right? Steph Curry, their best player, one of the best players, he can't play. Let's get to the game. Tell me who's healthy, Paul. Tell me who's healthy. Yeah, he couldn't play. It was still an uphill battle for them, even if he was healthy. But without him healthy, they have no chance. And they don't have a big. They have no big body. And, Minnesota got to play Gobert, and they got to play Naz Reid at the same time, 2 6'10", 7-foot guys. And, Golden State has, you look down the bench, who are you going to put in? You put in that kid from Indiana, the 6'9" kid, okay, hope you can do something, Yeah. And you talked about that all year, and that was very evident watching them. They were not big enough. And that cost them dearly. And again, you lose a guy like Steph Curry. Forget it. You can't replace him. No, Okay, Boston, back in the day, Larry Bird can't play. Good luck. Okay, Lakers, Magic can't play. Good luck. Okay, Chicago, Michael Jordan can't play. Good luck. Come on, man. Okay, Houston, Hakeem Olajuwon can't play. Good luck. Come on. it's part of the game, and you have to. And it's unfortunate because I thought Boston had the roster to overcome an injury to their best player or one of their best players, but they just, with the sickness to Porzingis, they just didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to talk about that matchup with OKC. And I'm not surprised OKC won that series against Denver, Paul, but I'm surprised how easily they won yesterday. At one point it was 42-43 OKC, and they just went nuts from that point on.
Yeah, but let's think. I think in game 2 or 3, OKC beat them by 42. So it's and we talk about depth. Denver has no depth. They have no backup center, not one. They got 40-year-old what's his name as their backup center. Come on, man, you can't.
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, they have DeAndre Jordan, who's he's 40 years old. You can't go get a backup center like a Steven Adams or somebody that can help you and help Porzingis and help the Joker, because Joker's worn out, man. And I'm gonna give it to my guy Chris Finch. I've told you on this show, and I've told people he has a genius basketball mind. I thought almost all of it was offensive minded, but what did he do to the Joker on defense? He played Caruso, a 6'4", strong, physical guy that was like a fly, a busy bee around him that he had to fly, get away. And then he came from the weak side and made steals and made it a hassle for him. And, that's a defensive adjustment that a veteran coach makes in a series. And Denver had no answer for that. And guess what? Denver fired their coach that won the championship 2 years ago.
I was going to say that had to be an in-game adjustment because it was Game 7. But what was the counter to that? What they were doing to the Joker?
Oh, and I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Chris Finch. It's OKC did that to him. What am I thinking? Right?
What was the counter to them sending Caruso down from the weak side?
No, Caruso guarded him. Caruso guarded the Joker. He guarded him. He was the man guarding him. And then he fronted and he physicaled, and then they came from the weak side with athletic guys flying in when the pass was in the air and got deflections, got to steals, got turnovers, and that was the big difference in that game. And unfortunately, Denver didn't go put the Joker down on the block. They left him on the elbow. They left him bringing down the ball. So if I'm a 7-foot guy, I can bring the ball down against other 7-footers with ease. Now you put a 6'4" guy that's a good defender and he's trying to steal the ball. Now I got to turn my back. I got to do all kinds of other stuff, So it was a great move by OKC to do that. And then of course their depth. Again, I'm going to say this all show, okay? So in the playoffs, the Joker averaged 40 minutes a game. Murray averaged 41. Gordon averaged 37. Brown averaged 39. Porter Jr. averaged 31. And then Westbrook 24. And this kid Peyton Watson, who's a good young player, averaged 14 minutes. So they played 7 guys, but one was a 14-minute guy. So let's look at what OKC played. Shea Alexander played 37 minutes a game. Jalen Williams played 35 minutes a game. Holmgren played 30. Hartenstein played 26. Caruso played 22. Dort played 27. Wiggins played 14. Wallace, who's a nice young player, played 21. And Isaiah Joe played 11. How about the minutes of that? They played 9.
They're going to be frustrated.
They played 9 players. No one. So, SGA played 37 minutes. That's the closest to Gordon, Brown, Murray, and Joker all played more minutes a game than OKC's most played guy. And it adds up in 7 games. It just does. how physical it is. You get worn out.
Well, more before, and we got guys that want to get into this final series, the conference finals, and we're going to do that in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that, I want to look at these guys who have now they're gone fishing, but what can they do to get better? Let's start with the Celtics because they got a major injury to deal with. Holiday's an excellent player, but he's getting older. Brown may have to have something done in the offseason. And then you got the issue with Porzingis.
They can do nothing. That's what they can do. Nothing.
Too much money.
They can't do anything. Yeah. So they owe Brown $53 million, Tatum $54 million, Holiday $32 million, Porzingis $30 million, and Derek White $28 million. They're over the cap with those 5 players. So they can't do anything. Horford's a free agent. Cornette's a free agent. They have Pritchard and Hauser who are, they make $7 and $10 million. So, but you're stuck with who are you going to add? Unless they trade somebody, they can't add anybody. There's no room financially. You got to hope that Horford comes back for around $9 million, like he played for. That kid Cornette, who blocking shots everywhere, being a big factor for them. He was on his rookie contract at $2.8 million. He's a free agent. He's going to make $15 million a year next year. Someone will pay him.
Yeah.
If I was the Lakers, if I was Golden State, I'm looking at that kid. Do I want to sign him for $15 million a year?
I hope the Pistons look at him because we need another big guy. We're not big enough.
Yeah.
The Lakers' payroll is almost $500 million next year, Paul. That's amazing.
What's that?
I'm sorry. The Celtics' payroll is $493 million next year. That's including luxury taxes, and that's without signing anybody.
That's with no Horford or no Cornette. That's salary caps and everything.
That's crazy, man.
I mean, they put all their eggs in one basket. They won a championship. Unfortunately, Tatum got hurt. Porzingis is sick, but you've thrown all your eggs in one basket. You can't go get anybody. I mean, unless you're going to blow it up, unless someone will take Holiday and someone will take another player and you can get somebody, but who are you going to get? And I saw the GM on TV today, I think, said, hey, we got what we got. We got them all signed up. That's what our goal was. So, they're going to run it back. They're going to hope Porzingis can get healthy. Brown just has cartilage, so he'll be fine in a month and 2 months. And they're just going to have to play without Tatum, for maybe all of their season next year. But, I saw my foot doctor and we talked about it. He says the Achilles surgery now is so much better than it used to be. And you could be back playing NBA basketball in 7 months. So, they can hold out for that, but they have nowhere to go salary-wise. They're locked in.
And speaking of Porzingis, who just had a terrible postseason, he was diagnosed with post-viral syndrome. It's a non-COVID illness, and he just had trouble breathing. He was just struggling to breathe. So
you could tell.
It's hard to play NBA basketball if you can't breathe.
Because when I'm a coach and I'm running conditioning stuff for my players, my point is when you're playing in a game and you have the decision that I can execute this play or I can breathe, you're going to pick breathing every time. So you need to be in shape so that time doesn't come till the end of the game or after the game. So you could tell Porzingis wasn't right. No one knew. They never told anybody what it was. But what I saw was someone that had some kind of viral infection or something, and was he would play for 2 or 3 minutes and be worn out and come to the bench sweating and can't breathe. So you knew. Hopefully there's some antibiotics or whatever that treatment that they have to do to get him right in the offseason, so he's ready because he's going to have to absorb a lot of that pressure from Tatum not being there next year.
Hey, to everybody out there, watch. This is why we love talking basketball with Paul Mokeski. I just read this. This is from the Joker yesterday after the game. He said, "We definitely need more depth. It seems like the teams that have longer rotations, longer benches are the ones who are winning. Indiana, OKC, Minnesota."
Yep.
That's what he said.
You know what's funny? Murray said that they asked Murray the same thing. Can you win a championship with this group? He said, yeah. And the Joker said, no, obviously we can't. You know, and the problem with them too is we talk about salary. It's about money, people. You can't just do whatever you want. So the Joker next year is making $55 million. Murray's making $50. That's $105 million and two players. Porter's making $38 million and Gordon's making $23. That's $166 million for four players. That's what you have.
Yeah.
Then you're lucky that Brown is on his rookie salary and he's only making $5 million, because if he was up and he's got 1 year left and then a team option, if he was a free agent, you know how much he would make now? He'd make $25 million. So they're lucky about that.
Yeah.
Then they have all these other guys that, you know, I don't even, Holmes and Strother and Watson and Pickett and Tyson and all these guys I don't even know. They all make $2 million, $4 million, $3 million, you know. So that adds up to like $27 million for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players, which sounds good, but they never play. So you need to use,
they don't contribute. Right.
You got to get 3 players or 2 players that play, and then that brings your rotation from 6 or 7 to 8 or 9. Then you got a chance. And you know, Dario Saric is a free agent. I think they let him go. Westbrook is a free agent. He played under his, you know, he played for $3.5 million. So I don't know if they bring him back or not, but you know, they need a backup center and some more depth. You know, so they have at least 8-man rotation you can count on. And you know, but their salary again, they're not as bad as Boston, not even close, because Boston's starting 5 make about $200 million, I think. I don't know. So you know,
and Steve says that
they have to keep making moves. Denver, they can't sit pat.
Steve says your beloved Bucks are going to keep Giannis and reboot the team.
I don't know that. You know, we don't know that. Because guess what? It's not working. It doesn't work. With Giannis playing the last 10 playoff games when he wasn't hurt, the Bucks are 1-9. They're 1-9. It doesn't work. He doesn't make players around him better. He's a great player, maybe for another team. But if you're the Bucks and you take another flyer on Giannis who wants to stay, and you try to add some more players, you know, So let's talk about that now. So Giannis makes $57 million. Lillard makes $58 million. So that's $115 million for 2 players. And then Kuzma makes $22 million. So you're at $130 million next year for just 3 players. And you know, so they're going to have to make some decisions. They have those 3. AJ Green's under contract at $2 million. That's good. But then they have Tyler Smith and Livingston and Jackson Jr. all making about $2 million, but they never play. Then they have player options: Portis, Cogniton, and Kevin Porter. So those are 3 guys that it's their option whether they come back. Portis is at $13 million, Cogniton's at $9 million, and Kevin Porter's at $2 million. So those are 3. You know, Giannis is going to make the decision. Those guys, are they going to come back, or are they going to just go? And then the other free agents are Lopez and Prince and Gary Trent Jr. and Jericho Sims, who's a nice young player. They're all free agents. So, really, the Bucks have three players right now, and they have Giannis, Lillard with a popped Achilles, Kuzma, who was a disappointment, and AJ Green. That's who they have signed. So I don't know how they build around that. I think you got to bring Portis back. You got to re-sign Jericho Sims. He's a good young player. You got to let Lopez go. Lopez. Think of Lopez with the Lakers or Lopez with Golden State. How about that? So, Bucks, my beloved Bucks, have a big decision to make, and it's going to be, if they make that trade, it's going to be a blockbuster trade that they better get enough back that they don't have the Giannis effect, right? Here, for all you people out there, for you, Ricky, here's my trade, right? So if I'm GM of the Bucks, you ready?
Ready.
So I trade Giannis to the Clippers. I trade him to the Clippers, and I want Zubac, Powell, Jordan Miller, who's a nice young player, and then their first round pick this year. So that'll make the Zubac's making 18 million, Powell's making 20. First round pick is worth 10 million. So that makes that trade work. So next year I have Zubac, Powell, Kuzma, Portis. I want to re-sign him. AJ Green, and I'm hoping that Lillard comes back before the season's over, and I got a chance to retool. And if I'm the Clippers, who have been a mass failure, right? I got Giannis, Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Bogdanovich, Derek Jones, Bantam, and Chris Dunn to make a run for this thing. And I probably got to pick up another guard. But Clippers aren't working.
So you're just going all in. You're going all in. Absolutely. Hey, you're watching.
The Clippers were a failure this year, and the Bucks were a failure this year, right? So you got two failures that can come together and make a trade that works both financially and player personnel wise. That's what I'm looking at.
Hey, Mo, we got a lot of people checking in. Send us your questions and comments. We're about to get into and preview these conference finals. This is We Got Next. I'm Ricky Hampton, my great friend Paul Mokeski, 12-year veteran of the National Basketball Association, longtime coach, assistant. He's done it all at every level. We've looked back on hey, before we go to these finals, Mo, I want you to talk about my Pistons. We have almost $30 billion under the cap. It's such a young team. Nobody's getting paid but paid. Would you try to jump in on one of these superstar guys? Would you kind of stick with this young core you got?
I might. I'm looking up their roster now. I might keep with what I got. If I'm not mistaken, the Pistons are the lowest team salary in the league. They're 30th. They're underneath Orlando and Utah, so that's good, right? And you have Tobias Harris, who you could trade if you want. He's making $26 million. Isaiah Stewart's at $15 million. The problem with that is Timmy Hardaway's a free agent. So do you want him or not? Cade Cunningham is signed for the next 5 years. You got him to build around. Dennis Schroeder's a free agent. Azur Thomas is signed up. I like him. Ron Holland never did buy into his talent, but he's not bad. Jaden Ivey, you need a big, and if you're going to make a run next year, you need to get a decent big, and you need to get another addition, another scorer to make a real run, or you're just kind of being the same boat that you are this year.
What do you think about Cornette? Went to Detroit.
Yeah, he would help a lot, I think. I mean, he's a very serviceable. He can catch, he can finish. He's smart. He knows how to play. He's a good passer. He doesn't look pretty like yours truly, but I got the job done. He does.
Yeah. I like his game. And fit him with Durham and Stewart. That's not a bad combination yet.
Then you probably need a another scoring option on offense to get people off of Cade Cunningham, so they don't focus on him as much. You got to get another scorer like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could do this, or you have any value or draft pick or something, but I'm not so sure. I wouldn't go after Kuminga from Golden State. 6'7", athletic, can score. He's raw, but he could help that Piston team too. He could put him next to Azure Thompson.
I don't think Kerr's going to let that dude go.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is. You talking about Kuminga that he didn't play till the end?
Yeah.
That guy? Yeah. The thing that's good about him, he's like those other guys. Kuminga is on his original. He's making $7 million next year and $10 million the year after that. So he's a highly valued player because his salary is so low. So that makes him, nice for the Golden State Warriors because they know they have him locked up. Now, is he going to be happy about that? I don't know about that, but so let me throw out another trade for the Bucks. Here's another thing you could do if you were general manager of the Bucks. You could trade Giannis to Golden State, but I want a lot. I want Kuminga, I want Quentin Post, I want Moody, and I want Gil Santos, a really good young player. I probably want Podzerski, the guard, and then a
Podzerski. Yeah.
So I could take or leave him if you put something else in because I'm not sold on him. But I want Santos, I want Moody, I want Post, and I want Kuminga. And guess what the Bucks are now? They're young again. And then I want a first-round pick. There you
go. Steve's talking about the Rockets making a move for Giannis.
Yeah, but it will come down to do you want to put Sengun in a trade with Giannis and because if I'm the Bucks, I'm not doing Giannis for any of your players unless Sengun, your young center's involved. I'm not doing it. I mean, you can't give me Dylan Brooks. You can't give me, I'll take Van Fleet is also a free agent, so he's not signed yet. So I don't. If I'm the Bucks, I don't want anybody on your roster very much except Sengun. I want him for sure, right?
You would take the other Thompson twin.
Oh, for sure, but they're not going to get.
That's part of a package. Part of a package.
I would take him in a second. I trade Giannis for Sengun and Amen Thompson for sure. Let me do that. Except I don't think the money works. And then you could throw in. Torrey Eason or Ken Whitmore or someone like that. I don't know.
They don't even play Smith, who was the number 2 or 3 pick for them a couple of years ago. Yeah, he hardly played for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, so if
give us a question.
If you're talking about the Rockets, it's on the Bucks, and I'm not taking. Are you going to give up Sengun, a 24-year-old, whatever he is, the next Joker supposedly? You're going to give him up and make a run with Giannis, Dylan Brooks, Van Fleet if you can re-sign him, Amen Thompson, and who else? Jalen Green now. I mean, I don't see that one.
Okay, I promise everybody we're going to get to the finals, but what these other teams have to do is really intriguing. Before we get out of here, is Durant with Phoenix next year?
Is the what?
Will Durant still be in Phoenix at the start of next season?
That's another thing that I talk about Giannis with the Bucks or, the Clippers with Kawhi and Harden. And it doesn't work. When is the time you say this isn't working? It's not working. The problem in the NBA is there's a lot of general managers and owners that don't want to make the big move. They're afraid. They're afraid they're going to make a mistake. So what they end up doing is holding on to people too long. So by the time you make that decision, hey, we got to move on, nobody wants your players anymore. They're too old and make too much money. So that's a big decision that, that's why the general managers make the big bucks, because they have to inform the ownership and do all that. And, they get all the information from the coaches and the scouts and all this stuff, but they're the one that's going to pull the trigger, like Nico in Dallas. He pulled that trigger. That's a hard trigger to pull, man. You're trading away Luka, but who knows? You get Cooper Flag, and now you have AD, and then Kawhi comes back. You're not looking so bad anymore. But he had the guts to do it. A lot of general managers don't have that guts to do that. So it's not monopoly money. It's big decisions being made. The owner in Clipperland has paid millions and millions and millions of dollars for Kawhi and for Harden and for that team that he was told this is a championship team. Remember when they came there about 2 or 3 years ago? Well, we're going to win it all. Yes, we have to look at our team, and it hasn't panned out. So when are you going to pull that trigger and say, listen, this isn't working. We got to trade who we want to trade, keep who we want to keep, and add who we want to add. And then we got something here.
Is there anything the Lakers can do?
They need to get a big. They need to go get Steven Adams or someone like that. But if you try to get get Giannis or get Draymond Green or something, well, you're gonna have to give up Reeves. You're gonna have to give up most of your team to get those guys. So they're Hachimura is a good player. They have LeBron obviously and Reeves, and now they have Luka. Add a big to that group, and see if I can't remember the shooter, the rookie, the 6'7" kid. See if he can become a really good shooter, and connect.
Connect, yeah.
Then add a center.
Yeah.
Get a center. Get Valanciunas. Get Sam Adams. Steve Adams. Valanciunas. Get someone like that can play center for you, and the Lakers got a shot. I mean, again, what's LeBron's situation? Is he going to sign again? And you got Bronny too. You got Bronny. Come on, man.
Steve says Lopez to the Lakers.
That's not a bad move. Here's the problem, though. I think he's demanding a salary of $25 million. So I don't know the Lakers have that under their salary, that they can fit that in. But, maybe Lopez is willing to take a little less. I mean, you know what? He's probably made, what has he made? Almost $200 million in his career, maybe more. So, what? If you have, say, hey, Lakers, you got 15 mil for me for the next 2 years, and I can live on the beach in Manhattan Beach and, play with LeBron and Luka and maybe win a championship. That I might be able to sign that paper.
Yeah, I can rough it off for 15 mil the next 2 years. Hey, we know this show is running back, man, and we got a bunch of people tuned in. Let's get to the finals. First matchup, the Timberwolves and OKC. And I hear a lot of people saying OKC is going to run over these guys. I think this is going to be a good series.
I don't know anybody who's saying OKC is going to run over Minnesota. Whoever's saying that is out of their mind. I think it's going to be a good series. I think both teams are deep. I think OKC might be more talented, but not much more talented. I think both teams are really good defensive teams. OKC is one of the best defensive teams in the league. Minnesota is right up there. I think playing Hartenstein and Holmgren, OKC is going to let Gobert and Reed play at the same time. Minnesota likes to play big. They are big. DiVincenzo's come on strong, and Randall's becoming one of the studs in the playoffs. So, OKC, beat up on a Denver team that was kind of banged up and under talented or not very deep. That's not Minnesota. Conley's a good point guard. Ant-Man is Ant-Man. Randall, Gobert's a shot blocker. Reed is sixth man of the year. DiVincenzo, McDaniels is spectacular. So you're telling me that OKC is going to run over that team? Give me a call so we can make a bet. I think it could go 7.
Hey, we talk about the Randall Cat Call Anthony Town trade. That's one of those trades that's been good for both teams.
Yeah, I think both needed a change of some.
You don't see that very often now.
No, trades are usually one-sided, and that's just the way it happens. And but I think Randall got away from, Randall Brunson. That combo seemed good on paper, but it's not because they both handle half the ball in their hands, so it's not a good combo. And so he got out of there, and Towns needed the pressure off him to be the man, and he's not the man. Brunson is. And I don't know if he had a problem absorbing Ant-Man as the man, as that man, but that might have been some of it. But it's good for Townsend is now with a team that plays defense, and he can shoot threes and do all that. And when they're not Hacker Robinson, he can play 4, and that he loves to play, not the 5 spot. And Randall is the main reason I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are still playing.
And why is it sometimes it takes guys, and I know you go from college to playing with grown men, but why does it take guys sometimes 3 or 4 years to really settle in? Oh, this is the NBA. This is what I need to do.
No matter how you prepare, no matter what people tell you, you're never prepared to the jump and the talent and the athleticism and the size and the strength and the professionalism of the NBA. You're not. I don't care who you are. LeBron is one of the rare examples of that happening young in his career, but for the most part, normal human beings, it takes a while. All these guys are as good as I am. They're bigger, they're stronger, they've been around, they know the ropes, they know the coaching staff, they know the referees. I don't know anybody. So it's a big step. And I think the biggest steps are for point guards and centers or bigs, because that's a big position to make a change in. But, it's just, the jump from high school to college is big. The jump from college to the NBA is huge, not big, huge.
Yeah. Hartenstein is the muscle underneath the basket. Mo, you were the first guy to put everybody on that watches this show to Hartenstein last year, because he was pretty much unknown, and he just comes out and he goes for every rebound. I mean, the guy's everywhere under there, and that play has made him a lot of money, made him a very valuable player in the league.
Let me ask you this. When you ask that question, let me ask you this question. What if Hartenstein was on the New York Knicks right now? What chances would you give them to win a championship? Probably the favorite. Yeah. And he was an unknown. Yeah. He's a big body that's bouncy. He's smart. He can score. He's got the little flip shot. He rebounds. He's tough. He competes. He's a great teammate. Hello. Yeah. So, and the Knicks kind of made the decision to keep Robinson because I don't think they can keep Robinson and Hartenstein. I think if they could rethink that, they'd change that mind. I know I would. I mean, I just think if Hartenstein's on the Knicks right now, they're the contender. They're the ones that can win. And OKC is not the team they are without him, for sure.
Before we jump over to the East, who do you like in that series for?
The OKC.
OKC. Yeah.
I think it's a toss-up. I think injuries come into play somewhere down the road. But if all is equal right now, I'd probably give a little edge to OKC because of Hartenstein and because of the way Caruso is playing. 2 of the biggest pickups. Everybody was talking about all these other trades and free agents, and they forgot that these 2 guys, Hartenstein and Caruso, that I talked about a year ago, are huge pickups for them. And I think that might give them the edge over Minnesota, along with that home court advantage. And I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's an arena in the league that, everybody does whiteouts and blue outs and orange outs and red outs, but not most arenas don't have everybody wear the shirt. Most arenas have people say, I'm not wearing this t-shirt. In OKC, they all wear the shirt.
It's almost like a college atmosphere.
It is.
When,
so
when you go
to
into
answer your question, I give OKC a little edge over Minnesota.
Okay, let's go east. Longtime rivals, Pacers, Knicks, Indy they have played tremendous basketball. They used to be a terrible defensive team. And Rick Carlisle has totally transformed them into a really good defensive team. And it took them about a year to do that, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time. Indiana, I think, is the only team where I think 6 or 7 players are averaging double figures. And when you talk about depth, that's depth. And they have it at every position. And, Halliburton's coming on as one of he's not getting the pub that Brunson's getting or Shea Alexander's getting or Ant-Man is getting. But he's right up there with them. He's not as consistent yet, but he's a little Reggie Miller-esque. I see a little Reggie Miller in him, challenging players and crowds and making threes. So, they're built for the long run. And it's interesting, right? The best defensive teams you think are still in it, right? Minnesota, OKC, the Knicks, and Indiana. They're the best. Out of all the groups, they're probably the best defensive team. And, it shows when you can make stops and, you can go from Halliburton to Siakam to Nesmith to Nembran to Turner to McConnell, the little guy coming off the bench, to Matt. They all can impact the game, and that's hard to scout against and prepare against. So they're the Knicks. That's going to be a great series. And how much footage are we going to see, Ricky, of the old Knicks Indiana Pacers series where they get in fights and Spike Lee is taunting and
You know what's coming. You know it's coming in that series. What do the Knicks have to do? I'm thinking you like the Knicks by a little bit in this series.
I don't think so. I like Indiana. The reason for I don't trust.
You like Indy?
I don't trust Townsend. I think he's still a question mark. I think he can be a really impactful player. But what I think about him is when he is missing his shot, when he is missing his threes, he hides and he's whining to the refs. And, I know, Steve, that the Knicks have home court in Game 7. If it goes to a Game 7, I don't know if Indiana's prepared for the Garden and how loud it gets and how crazy it gets. But I would go out there and say maybe Indian 6. How about that?
In Indian 6.
I mean, that's all these teams since Boston and Cleveland are all out. OKC, Minnesota, Indiana, and New York. I think they're pretty much any one of those teams. I wouldn't be surprised if they won it all. Whereas if there was some other teams in there, I'd say, well, this team has no chance, and this team has no chance. But with the 4 remaining teams, that they all have a chance to win. They got to stay healthy. They got to play well. They got to be resilient, and they all can win. So it's going to be an interesting, couple series to get to the finals, and then that's going to be interesting also.
So we got a 4 seed, we got a 3 seed, a 4 seed, a 6 seed, and a 1 seed. Is that good for the league?
I don't think they care about seeds. I do think that they're a little concerned with the small market that's being involved. New York, obviously one of the biggest markets, but OKC is one of the smallest markets. Indiana is a small market, and Minnesota is a small market. Remember we talked about small market teams, not going, that the league doesn't like that. They like the the New Yorks and the Chicagos and the LAs and the rankings don't matter anymore. I mean, it just doesn't. And are you telling me Minnesota is a 6th seed for real? No, of course not. They missed the 2nd seed by 2 games. I mean, so it's pretty equal. The mind blowing thing about me is that Indiana and New York are in it, and not Cleveland and Boston. That's what's crazy.
Yeah. Just a couple of minutes left here, Paul. We got the draft coming up, and we'll get in more on that. Just your thoughts about some of the players you like, and let's just talk a little bit about Cooper Flag and what we have to be careful. He's going to have tremendous expectations on him when he comes into the league.
Yeah, every first pick does, but it depends on where you go, right? Now, if he was going to Washington, he'd have big, but there'd be a lot of pressure. If he ends up in Dallas, let's see, Kyrie Irving, Hall of Famer, AD, Hall of Famer. There's not as much pressure, and you got all those big guys around. Lively and Gaffey and all those guys. So you could just, because he's an all-around player. He can score, he can defend, he can rebound, he can block shots when needed. But he's an all-around guy that can fit in anywhere with Dallas. Now, if Dallas trades him somewhere else, it's a different story. But but the problem is, we've talked about this, Ricky. I mean, you don't know what you're getting. Remember, I think 4 or 5 years ago when Zion was drafted and he was going to change the league and he was going to be the franchise player, and he was the guy. He's the next Jordan. Where is he now? You can't tell. You have to really do your research. The thing about what I hear about Cooper Flag is he's really competitive and he's really tough. And that's a lot of guys aren't like that, especially when they're talented. So I like his chances. There's some other players in the draft, some guards and some wings that can impact players. I can't remember the kid's name. He's supposed to go number 2. I think he's a 6'4" guard.
Ron Harper's son, Donald Harper.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Murray in Denver. That's how he plays. So he reminds me of. So if I'm a team and I'm picking, I want to find a guy that's going to fit in. Like if I'm Denver, if I had a pick and I was Denver, I'm not picking that kid. I already got one. I need to pick somebody else, But you never know.
Think about this. Think about this. The Mavericks were in the finals last year, and the next year they get the number 1 pick. Of course, they've given up one of their great players, but they got a great player in return. Plus, they're going to have the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, plus they got
Nico is sleeping a little better.
So you got AD and you got Christie, and you could have Cooper Flag. Would you make that trade for Luka?
Yeah.
I mean, so
absolutely.
You got to think ahead. It's not checkers, it's chess. So you got to think ahead. You got to think salary caps. You got to think of how it's going to fit in with your team. You got to figure out, what that player is going to be. So, and nothing is really decided. Nothing. You can't prove anything until 3 or 4 years from now how it really turned out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Mo, it's been a great hour. We got games starting tonight. We'll have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to our show. We Got Next. We're on every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out our shows here and on Sports Fluent at YouTube. And as you can tell, it's a lot of fun talking hoops with Mo. It's always a lot of fun hearing from my friends out there. And I see a lot more of you who have tuned in that we hadn't heard from. We want to hear from you. So make sure you join us.
Yeah. Comments and questions. You know who else lucked out in the draft? You know who else lucked out in the draft? The Philadelphia 76ers. They got the 3rd pick. And if something went the other way, they wouldn't even have a pick. So there's another lucky team.
Yeah. So, hey, we got to get out of here. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks,
and thank
Chris.
everybody out there.
Thanks,
For Paul Mokeski, I'm Rick Hampton. Peace, everybody. Take care.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.